Hey, everybody, welcome to this week's edition of UGA Sports Live. My name is Rodney Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dane Young and Jim Donnan. Jim Donnan is the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, a Hall of Famer, and actually, we will give him a UGA Sports Live Hall of Fame induction here in a minute because the show's has never been as good as it is now that we have Coach Donnan on every week to answer your questions and to give us insight and basically tell me where I'm wrong, which is just about everywhere. But we also want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Prime Shrimp, My Perfect Franchise, Athens Ford, Dead Soxy, Academia Brewing Company, and Europi. We'll talk about them later on the show, and we appreciate you folks hitting them up. I am here at Classic City Eats off Greensboro Highway outside of Watkinsville, just down the street from downtown Watkinsville. There's some new menu items that they have out here you're going to need to check out. They have pizzas now. And, Coach, when you see this Works pizza they have over here on the table behind me, you're going to lose your mind. So anyway, quite the beat down at South Carolina. Georgia rolls into South Carolina, rolls into Columbia, just absolutely lays it to the Gamecocks. Coach, there's a lot we can talk about from that game, a lot we can talk about this team now that we've seen three games, but just want to get your overall thoughts for the people that didn't tune into the watch-along game, the watch-along show, because they were maybe at the game. So give me your thoughts on the South Carolina contest.
I was really impressed with the fact that we took care of business and, had every reason to be overconfident looking at the tape, watching South Carolina against Arkansas. But just the way we took the ball effectively on the first two drives and then throughout the game, just consistently making the plays necessary to keep South Carolina off the field. And, they ran a fake punt, but that's probably good to get your kicking game always ready for stuff like that. But it's a total mash. I mean, very efficient. And like I told you and Dane when we finished it, the fact that it was a last game and everything, it was also one where very few mistakes, no stupid penalties, very good discipline by the second and third groups that were in there, which is evident when you can have good coaching like that you usually see those guys making stupid blocks in the back and just offside penalties and, roughing the passer and things like that. Just didn't see any of that undisciplined type deal from those young bucks. But I would tell everybody here, including the Kent State coach, pump the brakes on this Georgia football team. This is not the best assemblage of talent that's ever been. Have you ever looked at Miami in 2001 or 2002? All those guys that went to the post. We're going to be really good, and let's go for it. But our defense, I'm Kirby hasn't told me to say anything. When you need to listen to him. I mean, we've got some young guys that need to go against some better players, and when they do against each other in practice, they find what it's like. So I feel like if you're going down a really steep hill and, you're going to have to stop, you got to pump those brakes, baby. And, I feel like and I'm one of the most optimistic guys, and I told you last summer that, hey, we really got a lot of good young players, and we're going to be really good, particularly on offense. But I think right now you'll be surprised Saturday when you see this Kent State Golden Flashes team come in here. They got a quarterback probably as good as anybody we're going to see except Hooker and Levis, maybe Richardson. But, Florida hadn't thrown a touchdown pass in 3 games, so their receivers are limited. But this guy Saturday would be worth the price of admission. I mean, hopefully we can do a good job brushing him and keep him off balance. But he's a runner and passer, 6'3", 215, and we'll have a good time Saturday getting to watch somebody challenge us a little bit. They can challenge us.
Here's an early question from Middle Georgia UGA Dog Pound. What is a golden flash? That's a great question.
Golden flash is when you have a really good-looking butt and you flash somebody. I don't know. I don't really know what a golden flash is.
And that's the one I clipped for social media. That's the standalone of the show, everyone. Have a good night.
Right.
Yeah, we're dead here. Dane, I want to get your take on this real quick because Coach went right into one of the questions I was going to ask him. Okay, through 3 games, you've seen Georgia dismantle number 11 Oregon, just absolutely blister them, and that got a lot of people really excited. Then they played Samford. Now we know Samford's a good team, but it's Samford. Then you go and beat a very mediocre South Carolina team with 5 starters out on defense, and you put up 48 points on them. So you're 3-0. You're scoring points in droves. Your young defense looks okay, and I've seen it. There's a story I think from AP today. Is this team better than last year's team? They're talking about it on ESPN, CBS, ABC, everywhere. That's kind of thing I wanted to ask Coach, and he went right into it. Is this year's team better than last year's team? And I'm like, it's 3 games. Where's the tough games? Now, granted, Oregon was supposed to be a tough game, but that's the first game of a new coach. So each one of these teams, I want to say, has issues, and you do what you're supposed to. You blow them out. Okay. But I think Coach nails it. I'm like, I'm very excited about what we're seeing, but that Munson-itis in me makes me worry that, okay, have they really seen that adversity? Kirby Smart had seen adversity.
That's not Munson-itis, but I mean, go ahead and Dane, give me.
I'm going to find something negative to worry about, Coach.
I can see why the hype train is going like it is. When you see Oregon beat a good BYU team the way it did, you start doing the transitive property and say, well, Georgia handled them easily. Like, what if Oregon ends up being a top 10 team by the end of the year? And that's on Georgia's resume. Well, one, I think it's going to be needed because Georgia's schedule is pretty light the rest of the way through. Other than, like Coach was saying, Tennessee and Kentucky, what happens to them, between now and the end of the season? I even thought Mississippi State was going to be the toughest game on Georgia's schedule, and then LSU had that fourth quarter against them. So as a whole, I think you look at it and you say Georgia dominated Oregon. I know South Carolina was down starters, and they're not that talented anyway, but you still went to South Carolina at a sleepy noon kick and dominated. So for all the tests that Georgia's had through 3 games, they've passed with flying colors, and the offense looks great. And I think that's what people are most excited about. As a whole, is this team better than last year? You can't really say that yet, although I did say that on Twitter. And I think it's because of the offense and the skill guys that you see. The quarterback play at Georgia is better right now than it was at any point last year. I'm confident in saying that.
Yeah, I don't know as good as he was against Michigan in the fourth quarter. But, it's good. I mean, he's definitely improved technique. He's got a lot more practice with these receivers, but at the same time, I don't think it's really fair to make comparisons. But that's probably part of the deal with the media, though. That's what we're supposed to do. But I don't think it's really fair to. We don't have anybody even close to inside presence of Davis and Walker, except for Carter. I mean, there's nobody, and the 3 linebackers we lost. I mean, you saw Quay Walker and Dean and those guys are playing in the NFL. These guys will come along. And then Kendrick, I mean, he's a pretty dang good corner. I mean, Laster's got a way to go. I mean, he's going to be okay. But and Seen starting for Minnesota Vikings. But I know everybody's fired up about Malachi, and I've talked him up as good as anybody. I mean, he's having a good year, but he's going to be a really good player. But he's got to work on his coverage, and he's got a lot to learn, just like anybody does. So,
yeah, Coach, we saw
I'm the most optimistic guy on this show, probably, but I'm also realistic in the fact that you got to be careful about. I mean, I know I said that thing one time where I've been waiting 55 years for this to have a team like this. And I really thought we were going to have a team like that, but I didn't think Quincy Carter was going to throw 5 interceptions against South Carolina. You know what I mean? So you just never know. But this team's going to be not going to be challenged that much. Some of these teams, and so consequently, everybody wants to give them the lot more love than maybe they are going to earn. But they'll definitely develop and get a lot better at the end of the year. When we play Tech and those teams, I mean, in Kentucky, the way we practice against each other and all that, it's going to be really good. So everybody probably going to jump my ass about what I said, but
no.
I mean, you listen to the head coach, listen to what he says. I mean, he says, hey, when you watch the tape, there's a lot of things that we could have done better. I mean, and we don't see the tape like Dane and Brent do the film don't lie, and they see things, but there's people open. I mean, there's people unblocked. There's gaps in our coverage, but when all 11 are playing, sometimes you don't see all that because you make a play somewhere else. But
that's a point, though, that we saw in Film Don't Lie, and I'm glad you just made it, Coach. Spencer Rattler was not good against Georgia, and it wasn't just because of the pressure that Georgia brought. A quarterback that sees the field a bit better hits some checkdowns, and Georgia gets burned. We saw that a couple times on Film Don't Lie.
Spencer Rattler, we talked about this all week last year. I mean, I've told you, if I'd go with Doty in a New York Minute if I was Shane Beamer. I mean, because his offensive line is not that great, and he gives you a guy to move around and make some first down. Rattler's not going to run with the ball. I mean, he'll run it if it's obvious that he can make it against man. But I think we're wasting time talking about South Carolina. I mean, they're going to be fighting with Missouri and Vanderbilt to see who's going to be in the cellar. I mean, they probably beat Charlotte. It's going to be a tough game for them. They almost lost to Georgia State, who almost beat Charlotte. I mean, it's 1 point. So then they got the South Carolina State coming in there, and they got good players. I mean, they'll be better than you think. So after that, man, Burma Road for them. Don't they have to play A&M on a crossover game? And I don't remember who the other one was. And then they still got Florida, Kentucky.
Well, I don't think we're so much worried about South Carolina, Coach. It's more the idea that this team is, you went in and you had the largest margin of victory ever in the series against them. So I think Dane nails it when it's like you passed the first 3 games with flying colors. And
nothing
you don't
else we can do. That's right. We've done
exactly. So everybody wants to jump to the end of the book. Everybody wants to jump to the end of the movie. How's it going to turn out? So, well, based on the first 3 games, they're obviously better than last year. I'm like, well, they haven't really been tested yet. You saw Kamari Lassiter get torched in a couple plays there. They started picking on him. He'll get better, but again, it's his first year. Malachi Starks, again, first year.
What we do last year, like, didn't we beat UAB 56-3 and Vanderbilt?
Like, there was that opening game with Clemson, though, that I think tempered expectations from the start. I think the second when Georgia beats Oregon.
Clemson a lot better than Oregon, though. You just compare scores. I mean, Vanderbilt, we had like 30-some points in the first quarter. And then, so, hey, I think let's talk about, instead of comparing, let's just talk about where we're going from here myself. I mean, unless people want to get a big comparison, I'll go through every player on the team.
Well, people do that, Coach. It's a frame of reference because we don't understand the X's and O's like you coaches do. And go back to what Kirby Smart last few press conferences he's had. He said, we've got some issues. And then he actually said Monday, he's like, I stand up here and I say things and you guys don't believe me because you want to write what you want to write. And I was a little offended, but then I'm like, okay, that's fair. That's fair. He's right.
I mean, I believe him when he says that the best competition Georgia's getting is in practice. And I think that's going to be for the entire regular season.
Sure.
But he doesn't let us see practice, so we don't know what's going on in there. That's what drives us crazy. So
more than usual this year.
So that's why we're trying to figure out, based on that small window there, what's actually happening. So anyway, we got a lot of questions we need to get to. And if you want to put your questions into the comment section there, go ahead. We have some for the dog vent. But I want to mention a couple of our sponsors real quick. First, I want to mention our buddies at Prime Shrimp. Okay. This is a neat company that came to us and said, look, can we send you some shrimp? All right. Well, of course you can send us some shrimp. And basically what they do is you order from primeshrimp.com. You use promo code UGASports, pretty simple to spell, and you'll get $20 off your first order. They're going to send you frozen shrimp that they have beheaded, deveined. They've peeled them. They're fantastic shrimp. They come with little seasoned packets inside, and it's frozen. It comes to your house with dry ice. You put it into your freezer. You don't have to worry about it spoiling. And then when you're ready for shrimp, you want to have shrimp tacos. You want to have add it to some pasta. You want to shrimp cocktail. You basically take it out, and you drop. There's 2 clear plastic bags. You take one of those out. You drop it into some boiling water. About 2.5-4 minutes later, you take it out. The seasoning has covered the shrimp. It is phenomenal shrimp. It cooks perfectly. If you can boil water, you can have fantastic shrimp.
Which flavor is your favorite?
The signature seasoned. I had some of that in a with some dirty rice the other day. I'm just telling you, excuse me, red beans and rice the other day. I had some. I threw some of that with it, and it was just phenomenal. So, the garlic and herb is also fantastic. And there's just the plain. I actually had it with some. The first time I tried it was with some cocktail sauce from St. Elmo's, and
of course you did.
It held up to that. Okay, you guys know that cocktail sauce would knock down a mule, and sometimes you can't even taste the shrimp, but that shrimp came through with flying colors. I want to mention also our friends that were Dead Soxy simply because they were one of the people who recommended Prime Shrimp come to us. They know each other. They know how effective our audience is, how loyal our audience is. The folks at Dead Soxy have been selling college socks to a bunch of different fan bases. A couple Ole Miss grads that make these phenomenal, very comfortable socks that have the true state technologies that don't slide down. My favorite are the no-shows. That's stay under the top of your shoe there, because I do a lot of walking. Love those. They have dress socks. They have athletic socks. But the cool thing is they have the red and black socks, all different types for Georgia fans. But, if you got an LSU fan in the family, you can get them something. You got a coworker who's a Alabama fan, got something for them. So point being, check out our friends at Dead Soxy. And also, again, use promo code UGASports to get 25% off at deadsoxy.com. So check them out.
Coach, when I rewatched the game film for Film Don't Lie, the one thing that stood out to me that I didn't really pay attention to when we were doing our watch-along show, Jamon Dumas-Johnson was so quick and efficient, and he was in the backfield a lot. And I've been telling people, yeah, Georgia doesn't have the sack totals, but they really are getting pressure. And the linebackers are young, but specifically with Pop, I was impressed with how efficient and strong and fast he was. To me, it was the best game I've seen from him.
Yeah, he's going to continue to get better and better. Like Kirby said, I don't even think he got to play his senior year in high school. He's really just getting a lot more reps and with better players. I'm talking about his surrounding supporting cast is helping him be better because they're doing what they're supposed to do, filling the gaps and taking on blocks and opening him up. And he can kind of feel the areas that he can get through, and he's kind of sneaky going through there, and he's really very efficient and got good grasp of the defense, which you need. You got to have a guy that can get everybody lined up, and I'm really impressed with him. He's just a very, I don't know what the exact word. I mean, he's just got the it factor. I mean, he knows what to do, and he can make the plays when they're there.
I mean, between him and then in the first game against Oregon, I saw Smile Munden, and I'm like, he's taking the wrong step half of the time at the beginning of this. He seems to be getting more confident in what he's doing, and you saw him get pressure on Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, all of those linebackers, the more and more they play. I mean, a great play on the goal line, intercepting that pass by the one linebacker. Who was it? Tresman Marshall. Tresman got that one. So we got, and then Walker is not playing that much, but he's going to continue. The other thing is all these guys are just great on special teams. They really can run and cover, and Podlesny continues to just bang the ball out of the end zone, which, going into the fall camp, I was worried about that. But it's just what I would say is, from my standpoint, just as an observer that's a fan now, we need to just enjoy every week and understand what kind of role the UGA is on right now. They've lost one game in like 2 years. I mean, they just at the end of that one season, they ran it pretty good. That ran off all those wins and then won the bowl game, and then here they come again last year with only one loss. This is a
golden age, Coach.
This is a team that can win the conference, which we haven't done but once under Kirby. That's what he want to win the conference championship first, and then maybe even if you don't, you can still win the national. But big goal to win the conference this year.
You talk about them winning so much, and I put it in a column earlier in the year. I'm like, this is a golden age of Georgia football right now. I mean, you saw people throughout the country when they would win a game, they've changed the chant from "We want Bama" to "We want Georgia." So you have fans everywhere calling them out, and the pundits are saying, there's Georgia, then there's everybody else. And yeah, that sounds great. And I think a lot of that has to do, Coach, with the fact that the big question last year was Georgia's offense. So everyone's like, well, we're not sure about the whole quarterback situation, but this is a generational defense. And then once the generational defense all got drafted, everyone's like, well, they're going to take a step back. But they haven't really seen the step back because the offense has been producing so much. So I want to get your thoughts right now is nobody was mentioning Stetson Bennett for like in the Heisman race or even in the top quarterbacks. We saw lists in the preseason, top 5 quarterbacks in the nation. He was never on it. And there's top 5 quarterbacks in the SEC. He wasn't even on that list.
He was below Rattler.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone knew that Brock Bowers was going to be good, but now
a couple guys like Greg McElroy who know quarterbacks, he had him in his top 5. But
yeah, but there were a lot of people that did not. So the point being, I think that they're starting to get Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington's killing people. That offensive line's impressive. Kenny McIntosh leading the receivers, or leading Georgia's receivers first 2 games. I think just a lot of this kind of well-earned enthusiasm is coming from people. As Dane said, people love points. People like the offense. They love to see scoring, and Georgia's scoring in truckloads.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think you're going to continue to see that. Whether he's going to be in the Heisman, who knows? I mean, everything's going to unfold. Nobody even had a clue what was going on with Bryce Young at this time last year. I mean, and all of a sudden he finished up, really strong. So he's definitely got to be mentioned among the best quarterbacks in the country because you got to have a good quarterback to have the record we got. But whether that, 4 or 5 games from now we will, but there's no question Brock Bowers is the best tight end in America. And he Lord, what else can he do? But they really are limiting his reps in the game. I mean, he came out midway to the 3rd quarter, and of course Delp came in, and I like the fact the first play we go in there with Carson Beck, and instead of handing the ball off, we go over the top touchdown. I mean, I like that, and that chapped old Beamer's ass, I'm sure, but who cares? But
it was rude.
It just it's good to see those young guys get in there and perform, but they've been going against each other all spring and all fall, and we keep mentioning it, which I've always been a great proponent of. Go practice more against your better players, and then the scout team, just make sure your team knows what to do. They're better off doing the physical reps against each other and the mental reps against the scout team. So, because most teams are running pretty similar plays and pretty similar defense. That's what helped us so much against Oregon. The one thing that hadn't been said enough is we went against our defense the whole game. That's what Dan Lanning. I mean, you knew exactly.
That's a good point.
You knew what they were in, so it wasn't like, hey, what are they? And they might have tried a couple of different pressures or something, but what a great prep. You go through your whole fall camp going against your defense, knowing you're going to play that in the first game. And then deep down, our players knew what we were going to do to Bo Nix too. So, that's just based on 3 games. And Bo came back here the last couple of weeks, big game against Eastern Washington, and then really good game against the BYU Cougars. So maybe he can keep it up. But, he's got a tough road to hoe there with Washington and Southern Cal both looking pretty strong. I mean, Washington, very good move by them picking up that quarterback from Indiana, that left-handed kid. I mean, he came in there and torched Mel Tucker's Michigan State Spartans. So the transfer portal is either really good or really bad for some of these teams. And, boy, I mean, look at what it's done for the Ole Miss Rebels. I mean, Evans lighting it up at running back and a lot of those other guys on their defense. So I don't want to just go into that too much, but let's get some questions here and challenge me a little bit. I need to get my brain going here. I'm fried here thinking about these comparisons. Give me something.
I do love that Shane Beamer, after a loss to Georgia in his post-game news conference, has become like a national thing now where people want to see an annoyed Shane Beamer. Because last year, it was, they've got a 330-pound defensive lineman that's faster than everybody on this call, which he was right in talking about Jordan Davis. And then this year, it was like, no, we didn't quit. It's Georgia. Like, what do you want us to do?
For 2 straight weeks, right after the first on Monday, he's apologized to somebody. The first week he apologized for getting on some sports writer for something that he asked, and then this week he apologized to those student athletes that he was mad at because they weren't off the field, so they could run that play on fourth down, and it didn't work anyhow. So he apologized to them, and of course some of the student athletes were mad because, hey, we had our 15 or 30 seconds of glory out there, and we couldn't get off the field any quicker. So the logistics of it, Josh Brooks and all our people, they would have had those people off the field. I guarantee you Georgia would have done it because they wouldn't want to chap old Kirby, so they would have been off. But I really think this is true, and I'm glad that they do it. And back when I was coaching here, one of the first things they said, hey, can we recognize these Olympic swimmers? I said, for sure. I mean, all these Georgia people ought to take a lot of pride in the fact that these people won a silver or gold medal, and they got 96,000 or ever how many we there at the game. Let them take a little time and recognize them. I think that's tremendous when you can recognize some of these Olympic sports for what they've done. Like, say a team wins a conference championship and you recognize them.
I'm gonna take up for Shane Beamer though, Coach. That stadium is a horrible, horrible stadium.
Well, hey, that's not your fault.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's when they get into the end zones there, it's the only end zone in the SEC where you can't be in the end zone to film or take pictures or stand there. You can't even be there to be the guy that runs the net up. It's just it's a zoo. So, he's like, y'all need to get out of the way, because if we saw there was one fade route to the corner and the ESPN camera guy kind of got into that zone a little bit, he got run into by, I think, Lad McConkey or Brock Bauer or something like that. And I'm thinking if he had run the play and it had actually been successful, and they, guy goes barreling into some of their young ladies down there, then he'd have been yelled at for that. It's like, weren't you worried about him? So, but to your point, after the game, he's absolutely frustrated because, I mean, he's supposed to remember how excited everybody was about Shane Beamer, and all of a sudden Georgia gets the biggest win of all time against them, and it could have been worse. They gave up a garbage touchdown.
He did. He had every right to challenge that guy for saying, "Hey, did we get?" But I will say this:
that was a bad question.
The one thing those girls have in common with the South Carolina Gamecocks, they were in the end zone as much as South Carolina was.
Shane actually has this inverse. Like,
both were in there one time.
The football team should be asking the women's basketball team, can they be recognized?
Yes.
That's where the championship is.
Can we come to your halftime?
Like, Dawn Staley runs that show.
That girl that played so good for them ate up the WNBA too. She went
Asia Wilson, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she just jacked it up there too. I mean,
there's a champion there, and it ain't Shane Beamer right now.
No,
that's what I'm saying.
We do have some questions, Coach.
Some more questions here.
Before we do that,
go ahead.
Hit a couple here. I want to mention our friends over at Academia Brewing Company. We had a gentleman who's coming to the game this Saturday, and he said, "Hey, after the game, where should I go in town? I have some friends that are coming in from out of town. They're big IPA guys. They love a good IPA." And I'm like, "Do you not listen to our show?" But I mentioned, said, "Look, go to Academia, because Georgia's games at noon. If you want to watch all those 3:30 games, go there and check out the giant TVs they have everywhere. Have their Hoprophesiac IPA, which is an award winner that people line up to get it. It's a phenomenal IPA. Eat great food. They have new menu items coming. They got a new steak coming. They have a new black and blue burger coming out there. All sorts of new menu items that are working into the rotation. They've got the beer garden. So if it's weather like it was past Saturday, you can sit outside in the beer garden and watch the game. They have an outside bar as well. Point being, it's a great place to go, especially if you're coming in town and you have people that have maybe different this person wants a salad, this person wants flatbread, this person wants a steak. If you have a huge party and everybody wants something different, that can be handled out at Academia Brewing Company. Plus, they always have live music, Trivia Tuesdays, beer and biscuit brunch. Check out our friends at Academia Brewing Company. That's a great place to watch the game or do the watch along. Also, mention our friends at Your Pie. Your Pie Pizza. We've had that recently on our watch along show. It was phenomenal. I tell people to go ahead and order your Saturday pizzas today, because on Tuesdays is the double points on the Your Pie app. So hit up the Your Pie app, go through and say, okay, I want this pizza and I want this crust and I want these toppings and I want this cheese. go ahead and get all your orders in. Tell them that you'll either have to deliver it or pick up or whatever for this coming Saturday, and you'll go ahead and order today. That way you get double points, so you don't have to wait until Saturday and not have that. Great pizza, great gelato, great sandwiches, great pastas, great salads. Hit them up at Your Pie. Tons of locations throughout the Southeast. Huge Bulldog fans, Drew and Natalie French, the founders of Your Pie. And I guarantee you they will be in the stands watching the Georgia take on the Golden State, or the Kent State Golden Flashes, whatever a flash is. So
You said gelato correctly that time. Isn't that the word that you've struggled with in the past years of this show?
I can say prosciutto too, but it's,
spelling bee time. That's going to be
No.
We'll save it for the off season, right?
Dude, I misspelled peek. I wrote sneak peek on the Eli Manning Stetson Bennett video that we have up at UGASports.com. Eli Manning came and talked to Stetson Bennett. It's a great little clip. He's going to be on Eli's Places, and they sent us a preview clip, and folks need to check that out. And so last night, I'm like, oh, we need to call this a sneak peek, and I wrote P-E-A-K. And it sat
Like a mountain.
Like a mountain. It was on the site for like 12 hours. I'm like, God bless America. I'm such a moron. So, but again, I just wasn't thinking last night. I was probably a little drunk. I don't know. But we don't do spelling bees. So.
Well, maybe in the office. I spent a year just bragging on that I could say Uwe Ungalale, and then the next year it was Bo Nix.
Yeah,
so I didn't get to flex this year, so I'm trying to work in some broadcastery things in there. Curtis Maximus says the real champ is Shane Beamer's wife. She's better looking than Marcus Freeman. Slow down, Curtis. We've had this discussion before, and we'll leave it at that.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, his profile picture is Nicolas Cage as a pickle, so it's Pickles Cage. This was me filibustering as Coach Don has stepped aside for a second, but he's back. So that means we get to our questions from UGAsports.com. First one, not even a Georgia question, from KCKD. Are you all surprised that Jermaine Burton has been, quote, meh at Alabama?
Who?
Jermaine Burton.
Who? No. You never know how things are going to end up. There's a lot of ball left, but he's got to be frustrated, to make a move like that, and with the idea of getting the ball, and they just can't protect the guy. I mean, look at their whole line. I mean, doesn't look as good as it was last year. Got a guy from Vanderbilt starting at left tackle who is a good player, but I just don't know. Maybe he's not even left tackle now. I don't know where he's playing, but Alabama got some really good players, but they don't have, they don't have a consistent running game, and they can't protect the quarterback. But they got a great quarterback. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes for them. I mean, they got Vanderbilt this week, but got some. I guess they got to play Tennessee, and then Arkansas, all those teams on their side, and Tennessee on a crossover. So we'll see.
Yeah, people talked about Georgia's receivers for so many years not being of Alabama's quality or LSU's quality or Clemson's quality. I think it's proving around the country it's really hard just to reload receivers to have. I mean, what Alabama had was almost best ever kind of stats.
Look at over last 3 or 4 years, all the guys playing in the league, but seriously, I mean, I like our receivers. And, of course, Mitchell didn't play the other day, but encouraging to see, Marset dropped that pass, but encouraging to see Bell and Marset. I mean, those guys are going to help us. And then now all of a sudden you got Kyrus Jackson and Blaylock hadn't really been getting many balls, but they can do it too. So, but McConkey is just a difference maker. I mean, he can make so many things happen when the ball in his hand, and really good blocker too. He just kind of, just menace there. I mean, just get after you. Just stay after you all the way, and
comes at you like a spider monkey. That guy
he's
vicious on the edges.
He's very effective. And then you got the masher out on number 0 out there, just putting his arms out and just puts you in a death lock. I mean, it's overwhelming what he can do. I thought Kirby had a new word there. I mean, he must have talked to his mother, who was an English teacher. He said, we're looking for displacement on the blocking, where I guess you displace where he used to be and put him somewhere else. He said, not in this place, he's in this place. So
Darnell displaces people. I'm like,
He does.
that's the greatest description I've ever heard of actually getting someone
really
to play.
good. I'm surprised more people didn't say something about it. But what's the next question?
It's my favorite quote of the year.
With receivers, one that people should just keep an eye on, a walk on, kind of like Cass Jones made the trip to Columbia. This guy won't travel most likely, but when they're playing at home, Mekhi Muse, I'm hearing a lot of good things.
Oh yeah,
Muse.
He's good. He's really quick. They use him a lot to return punts, just so the team practices, quick movement and breaking down and all. I mean, the guy is extremely quick, and that's a good name to bring up. I hope he gets in some. I think he got in against Samford a little bit.
He did, and I expect he will against Kent State as well. He's not a travel guy right now, but when they play at home, he'll be on the field.
I hope we can get him in there. I don't know, 44 points. I mean, if I would ever take the points in the game against Georgia, I would think Kent State's got a good chance getting that 44.
Here's a question from Pine Tree One: Is
not
Carson
getting 44 points? They'd start out 44-0 against us.
Right.
Is Carson Beck in the driver's seat for QB1 next year?
He's definitely ahead just because of all the game experience he's getting. And, when Brock goes in, it's just, kind of not really anything but handing the ball off or just running with some guys that aren't near as experienced as he is. But there's a lot of mountains to climb between now and next year, all the spring practice and fall camp and all, where it'll be up, more of a competitive situation where they both, but he's definitely ahead, no question. And I've been impressed. I told Coach Munkin when I did congratulate him, I saw him for a minute. I say, I was happy that in the 2 games when he's had a chance that, the kid's gone in there. He's like 12 out of 15 or something like that. He had 1 drop for a touchdown. I mean, he's very, very much in control. And I like the fact that they let him keep running some stuff instead of just handing the ball off. But he's made a lot of improvement since his first spring here. I mean, really has improved. And so has Vandergrift. And, you got to watch out for old Gunner, too. I mean, he's got that little something about him. He just makes plays all the time, and he's working with the scout team now. He get a lot of practice. We got a good quarterback room right now.
Do you think they would take a transfer coach?
It depends on who it'll be. You never know. I mean, all of a sudden, if Bryce Young wants to transfer, I mean,
if Caleb Williams decides he wants to go at it again,
I mean, you got to take that call and see who's available. I mean,
I was just thinking because they like to have 4 QBs plus some guys to help them get through practice, and then Stetson leaves. They don't have a really,
are you sure he's going to leave? You sure there's not a 7th year?
He may not, but they don't have a big name QB in this recruiting class, So I could just see a situation where they're like, well, we need a 4th guy, and they're really in on some 2024 guys. But
we've done it before. I mean, look at who we brought in. I mean, we brought in the kid from Wake, then we brought in JT. So nothing wrong with that. I mean, and certainly the quarterbacks here would see why. I mean, if you got a really good player that wants to surround himself with a lot of good players, then he makes that overture. You look at it, but not at the point that you would disrupt a situation if you feel like he's not as good as the ones you got. I mean, you don't do that.
Question from I've Been Good. Outside of a win and no injuries, what do you want to see the Dogs come away with after playing Kent State?
From my perspective, I want to see how we defend this quarterback, just because he's very adept at doing a lot of the stuff that we've seen, and you and Brent have explained about RPOs and the extent that they can test the defense, because if you come up to stop the run, they throw the ball in the hole behind them. Saw it with Jalen Hurts last night, time after time. If a guy left the hole, he would hit the guy, or if the hole was open, they ran the running play, and he's using his feet on the perimeter. This scheme at Kent runs is a very difficult one. I think they played Auburn a couple years ago and got a lot of points on them. maybe look that up maybe 2 years ago before Harsin was there. They scored a lot of points on them. But I don't see them scoring a lot on us, but they'll I feel like they'll score. I mean, they got too many weapons. This is a good team. I'm not going to say they're a national powerhouse, but I mean 7-3 against Oklahoma at the half, and they really scored on with 3 seconds to go or something to go 7-3. So and then their defensive scheme is one that just drives you nuts. They run that 3-3-5 thing, kind of like Arkansas, where you got 3 down linemen and then you got the 5 guys that any of the linebackers can come. So they're going to make you look bad. You know what I mean? They're going to make you can't pick up everybody, particularly if they bring all 8. But you never know which one of those 5 are coming, and you don't see it that much. Mississippi State runs a version of it, so they'll make us look bad. So there's going to be a show next week where we're going to have a myriad of questions. What's wrong with our running game? How can they get that penetration? Or why can't we stop this dual threat quarterback? And I'm just telling you right now, go to the game, you'll see it. It's going to be fun to see the other team challenge us a little bit. And
that won't be fun. People freak out.
Well, you trying to freak me out with that pizza there?
Now, I figured people didn't want to see my face anymore. I do want to mention that while we're out here at Classic City Eats, they do have 8 new menu items. They have a new pizza oven out here, and that looks great. Plus, they have new sandwiches you need to try out. So we can keep asking questions, but I figured instead of y'all looking at me, y'all can look at the pizza.
So this is one that
did you get that to go?
I'm about to.
The 246 Hamilton? No.
I was about to say, you want me to bring you oh, shoot, I can bring you the whole damn thing, Coach.
Oh, sure.
We'll hook you up.
Yeah, go ahead. What's the next one?
Let you kind of coach out a little bit on this one because go Dogs 1371.
I like it.
Because Kent State's offense derives from the Baylor and Bryles scheme, will it help Georgia get looks at what it will face against Tennessee?
Exactly. I mean, very similar to what Hooker does. I mean, they got that kind of deal where you take those maximum splits with your wide receivers and you're always threatening the whole field and throw the ball deep. I was surprised that they didn't take more deep shots against us, South Carolina, the other day, but it definitely will help you because you get a whole week of practice against it, then a game, and it's very similar to what they do. That's a very astute question by who was that said that?
That was Go Dogs 1371.
Well, that's good. That was just a little bit before the Pinta and the Nina came over here from 1492, so that was good.
Coastal VA Dog says, my biggest concern with the team is that it has not faced adversity yet, and it just seems that I'm not sure how we'll handle it because we are so young. By adversity means an injury or sloppy play, kind of like Bama versus Texas, or playing from behind. And he's saying, is Georgia too talented that just won't happen? Or I guess, how do you manage that when you haven't faced adversity yet?
It'll happen. I mean, that's why you have a game. I mean, things happen in games. You can't plan it, but you do try to practice it. They have a ton of adversity in practice. So they work on all kind of situations, backed up, Hail Mary practice, defending the Hail Mary.
App State, it works.
2-minute offense, 4-minute offense. Get the ball back. We got to get the ball back. This is the kind of pressure we're going to use. 2-point play, defending the 2-point play, what to do after a safety, all that stuff. And but I will tell you this, one of the best quotes I ever heard, which I give a chance to give you a little long fella here. Adversity causes some men to break, others to break records. So when you got a chance at adversity, you can bust up or you can go on and break the record and you can handle it. So I feel like we'll handle it, but whether we handle it enough to not get beat when it happens, who knows? But that's why we're watching all the games.
Charlotte grow through suffering.
Charlotte Dog asks, who will give Georgia the most problems this year, and who do you think will win the West? I think it's a good question because we had been hyping up Mississippi State, and as I said earlier, their fourth quarter, they got bullied by LSU.
Hey, I was really surprised with Mississippi State, the way they started and then had a chance to put that game away. And then they looked like they had a bad halftime adjustment program. I mean, they must have gotten intimidated by the Tiger outside the dressing room, but they played very poorly. And the quarterback from LSU jumps around, and you can see why Arizona State got fired. I mean, they lost him, and they got fired the other day. So he's a good quarterback.
So who do you think on Georgia's schedule is the most troublesome, I suppose? Tennessee?
I would say Tennessee, just because of Hooker and the fact that all their receivers are so good. I mean, you got this hot kid coming in, but the one that got all the receptions last year is having a big year too. And then, but Kentucky's going to be up there. I mean, they could be one or two losses when you get up there, or maybe riding high. So we're going to. Who knows about Florida? I mean, maybe they'll get some receivers, but it's hard to believe they played 3 games and hadn't thrown 1 touchdown pass. I mean, that's hard to understand. I mean, when we ran to Wishbone, we even threw some touchdown passes. So I mean, come on. I don't feel sorry for the Gators one bit, though. I mean,
I can hear it in your voice, Coach, how broken up you are that they don't have a touchdown pass.
I would say 7 points is being nice to Florida this week. I mean, unless Florida gets Richardson just plays out of his mind, Tennessee might get the monkey off. Somebody was saying that they, like in the last 35 or 36 games against Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, that they're like 4-32 or 3-35 or something like that.
Yeah, they lost 5 in a row to Florida.
They hit that one Hail Mary against us, and they beat Florida one time. They hadn't beaten Alabama in 15 years, so kind of a tough run there for the Vols. I don't feel sorry for them either. But
Coach, text your buddy the Bear and tell him that I'm upset that they picked Florida and Tennessee when you've got 3-0 Duke going to 3-0 Kansas. That's never going to happen again.
Well, they're going to go out there for game day in basketball. They're not. I mean, that's what they do.
That's a good point.
That's
why they should do it. It's the rarity.
That guy. I mean, you probably have about 100 people come to KU. I mean, as much as I don't like Oklahoma State, KU's close. I mean,
hey, you don't have to play Oklahoma State anymore, Coach. You don't have to worry about that.
Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk. I mean, come on, what a cheer. Have you ever been to Allen Fieldhouse?
I have not.
No.
I mean, that place, wake up the echoes when you go in there. You think James Mason is going to come out there and shoot a free throw. I mean, that place is old now. I'm talking about really old. But they got a nice floor and everything, but they need to renovate that baby a little bit, I would say.
Roddy, I'm going to throw this one to you. This is from Wales Dog. Do you anticipate Georgia offering larger NIL deals last minute to any recruits who could be committed to other teams?
Georgia does not offer NIL deals. That is illegal. They're not allowed to do that. Now, collectives and other people are allowed to do that, but the university itself cannot coordinate such things. So will other organizations, other business owners, will, the collectives, people who are in charge of that stuff, offer with them? Absolutely. That is Kirby Smart knows that's the landscape. He brought in our friends at the Classic City Collective, Matt Hibbs and such, and said, look, their kids are, getting promised stuff at other schools. We can't do that ourselves, but you guys can. So that's the landscape now. I even asked him about it yesterday. I said, what's going on with, how with more months of watching how NIL goes down, you've had some, visits on campus, what is your new take on the whole landscape? And he says, we still don't have a big enough sample yet of what's going on there. But yes, there are people that saw guys who were, we'd have quotes from a kid about why he's coming to Georgia. And then all of a sudden he goes somewhere else, or we'd have a kid reach out to us and say, hey, come shoot my commitment video. And we're like, okay, we'll be there Monday. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to Alabama instead. So
Or they produce a commitment video, but they did it for another one as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, definitely. So you have that sort of stuff going on, and it's a lot of negative recruiting out there. But right now, it's more about, hey, we have donors and boosters lined up to help you out with NIL. We can't do it ourselves, but they will be able to talk to you once you're a student here, and it's a crazy thing right now.
You know what you can do yourself.
I mean, I don't know. I guess this is a public thing. I'm not going to say anything I'd say about it.
Hey, well, I do want to mention a couple of our other sponsors real quick, and these are people who could actually set up an NIL deal. So like let's say Athens Ford, who we know takes care of us. They take care of our readers, take care of our viewers. We had a couple of people recently reach out to us and say, hey, I've been looking for a Ford Bronco, and they go out to Athens Ford and order it from them, which means a lot to us, by the way. It's people like that who go out, who support the university, take care of them. And trust me, Athens Ford does this. They do a great job taking care of UGA, and it comes down to, where do we spend our money? So what Athens Ford does is they take care of the community. They take care of the coaches. They take care of the university itself, But what they haven't done is gone and say, we're going to go get one player. So if you're at Delta, you're at Athens Ford, you're at anybody else, you got to start thinking about what are we going to do with our promotional money? So a lot of people are kind of waiting to see how it pays out. But what I tell people about our friends at Athens Ford is these guys are insane supporters of UGA. Brian Clover and the folks out there, they do a fantastic job of taking care of UGA. They're huge fans. So if you want to support the people who could do this sort of NIL stuff and who could take care of the university, when you go looking to buy a vehicle, go to Athens Ford. Don't go somewhere else. Go and get that lifetime powertrain warranty. Don't buy one in Conyers. Don't buy one in Covington. Don't buy one in Ackworth or Noonan. Come to Athens, get one there, because those folks are taking care of your university. So we appreciate that a lot. Also, if you want to become independently wealthy so that you can do your own NIL deals to help Georgia get a quarterback, when that kid signs and you're like, hey, I want you to represent my company and be, hold our product up, check out our friends at myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy Ludecky. He basically helps you, even if you want to keep your regular job, but if you want to get into a franchise where you are the boss, be it turnkey or, full immersion, where you're there every day, hit up myperfectfranchise.net. There are over 3,000 different franchises out there. Talk to Andy, and he will help guide you to one that would fit your parameters. So if you're looking to get out of the rat race, you want to be the person that signs the front of the check instead of the person that signs the back, check out Andy Ludecky and My Perfect Franchise. And then when you're super wealthy or mediocre wealthy, you too can be a part of the NIL deal and get these Georgia players to represent your company. So hit them up.
All right, Coach, let's get to the gripes of the fan base. 1970 Dog. He says, our run game is not as good as previous years. Are we just not doing what works for us, or do we just not have a Chubb or a Swift on the roster?
It's not calling runs. I mean, that's what it gets down to. We call passes that look like runs, and you don't get credit for them in the running game. But I feel good about our running game. I could put my head on the pillow every night and feel very good about our running game. And nothing against what he said. We just don't have stats. But you look at all those short balls we throw behind the line, or those little toss, those are runs. And I promise you, our offensive line can block with any offensive line we've ever had here. I can say that without question. That's not an issue. And our second team is close to that. We got second team linemen. So, yeah, was it 1970 Dog? Is that the one that asked the question?
That was 1970 Dog.
So you can relax about our running game. I mean, maybe worry about our defense against the deep pass or our inability to tackle in space or something like that. But running game, that's the least of my worries right now.
I'll give a particular shout out to Tate Ratledge. I thought he had his best game as a Dog against South Carolina. Thought he looked really good.
He's good.
Coach, is that let me interrupt real quick, Dan, before we get to the next question. With all the those little pop passes and stuff like that, are we to the point where you start calling this a style of offense? You know, you had the fun and gun, you had all these themed offenses. Is this kind of a, I don't say new thing, but is this just this aggressiveness and this all this?
I mean, it's just very similar to what you see the pros. Everybody's doing it. I mean, it's copycat. I mean, it's too easy to spread people out and get them away and get a mismatch not to do it. I mean, you can knock your head against the wall trying to line up and just knock everybody off the ball and hope you can make 4 yards, or compared to line a guy one place, put him in motion, and bring him back the other way and confuse the defense, and he runs right by the defensive end. So you don't even block him. That's what I used to like about the option offense, and that's why people like Air Force and Navy and Army do good against these big teams. They can't block them, so they just read them. I mean, you got a big old Chilardo over there, 300 pounds. You're going to knock him off the ball with a 260-pound cadet? No, you're going to read him, and if he turns his shoulders, you're going to pull it. If he comes up the field, you're going to hand it off, and that's why that's what you're doing with the RPOs. You read the linebackers, and in the case of Kent State, they read the safety sometimes. If the safeties take a bad step, they're going over the top with it. So it'll be good to see how we defend that.
P-Tech One, a poster from the Dogman after my own heart. He says, Cass Jones is a redshirt freshman. What do you think the chances of him getting significant playing time are by the time he's a senior?
I think he's going to play some for Georgia. He got too much speed. I mean, he's a walk-on from Texas that nobody knew much about until Roddy brought him out last week. I don't know where he found out about him, and it certainly wasn't from me because I didn't know who he was. But he definitely has got some jets in his butt, man. This guy can run. And he's kind of like Dan Jackson was on the scout team and all. He gets everybody's attention. That's what I've heard this week after talking to some people about him. He makes plays on the scout team all the time because they need speed over there. And he's out there against our defense, and they took him on the trip to help be a backup on some of the special teams. And then all of a sudden we're, getting to the point we need to eat, ride, and warm up against them and put some of those guys in there. And he showed a lot of juice in there. I was happy with him. He'll make an imprint.
I love your ERWs. I really do.
You see more ERWs when you don't have the 70 man. When you get to 90 and 95, those guys that eat the pregame meal, ride the bus, and warm up, they get in there.
That's my favorite. That and Chilardo. You hit my Jim Dodd and bingo card for my favorite comments on the podcast.
We'll sneak in a few from YouTube. Our buddy Eddie from Ackworth. Coach, does the lack of sacks concern you?
Not really. It's the style of the game now. Everybody's catch and throw, RPOs, hard to sack. I mean, you're going to see around the country. Will Jones doesn't have many sacks for what's Will? What's the guy at Alabama? Will
Anderson.
Will Anderson. He hasn't made near the sacks. People are getting the ball and getting rid of it. So it's hard to do it in college right now. So if we do pressure the quarterback, we influenced the guy last week. He was about 15 times he was out of the pocket or he had people in his face. I know you can tell us exactly because you do the Brent Rollins stuff. How many times was he affected last week, Spencer?
Brent has the data on that. I just pull some video, man. I'm a video person. Look, Coach, I'm a GM, right? So with these NFL games happening, I'm doing.
Yeah, but usually we just come up to your office and want more money and another player, but we don't worry about the stats.
He's even wearing a coat now, trying to sell us on this thing.
Bill Parcells used to say, "Hey, if you're going to make a pie, you ought to be able to buy the ingredients for it." And that's what he used to talk about, why he didn't have more to say in who the players were. Hey, if I'm going to have this pie, I need to know what kind of ingredients I'm making up. So,
Guy tells us that a golden flash is a golden eagle.
Is it a golden eagle?
You can't lie on YouTube comments, Coach. That's the bearer of all truths.
Yeah, I could probably.
Then why not just go with golden eagle because it's a giant bird?
because you don't want to be that much like Auburn.
I got a joke.
They're
When-
Tigers.
I got a
War
joke.
Eagle.
I got a joke today about the Eagle. So we'll finish up with that one. How much long? One more question or what?
I think it's time for that, and we wrap up.
Well, there was these two preachers that were in a wreck, and they all of a sudden they're up in heaven, and they said to him, "Look, you weren't supposed to come up here till next week, and I tell you what, we'll let you go back to earth, and you can be anything you want." And the one preacher said, "Hey, I'd like to be a bald eagle. I'd like to be able to fly over the mountains and go anywhere." The other one said, "Well, I've lived a really good life, and I really done everything right." He said, "I'd like to be a stud." And he said, "Okay." So next week, they talked to the angel, said, "Look, you got to go pick up those two preachers." Said the first guy won't be hard to find. He's probably flying over the Rocky Mountains. He's a bald eagle. But that other guy's a 2x4 in a condo in Miami Beach.
Roddy's head is in his hands right now.
I didn't see that was coming.
For the listening audience.
He's a 2x4 in a condo in Miami Beach. So that's why I heard the bald eagle. All right.
Hey, everybody, tune into our watch along show Saturday noon for Kent State. We'll be on about 5 minutes beforehand. That game's on SEC Network Plus.
Yeah, how do you get that game? Good Lord.
You hope and pray. No, it's if you have ESPN Plus, if you're subscribed to that, you can see it there. On some cable and satellite outlets, I've seen it before to where there are alternate channels near SEC Network, and that sometimes it will have been on there. Yeah. I have no idea if it will be. We're gonna.
I don't think it out as we. I think this is gonna have to be
plus like $7 a month or something.
Mine's in a bundle with Disney Plus because I have kids, so it's like $15 a month for Disney, Hulu, and ESPN.
All right, way to give it to us.
Well, we got to set up a new TV for our watch along, and hopefully we'll be able to just download that app onto the TV and watch it there. So fingers crossed.
Sounds good.
And if not, we'll just watch something on Disney Plus together. How about that?
Yeah, y'all ready for Coach John's takes on Frozen?
Yeah,
love it.
Let it go, Coach. Let it go.
You watch Gilligan's Island.
Hey, if we want to do a Sanford and Son marathon, I'm all over that. So, just let me know.
I mean, you laughing your ass off the whole time, that's for sure.
There was a viral tweet that Tom Brady is older now than one of the cast members of Sanford and Son when he was on there, and then they showed the picture, and it's a guy looking older at the time from the 70s. So it's just you're saying Tom Brady's old.
Tom went after somebody the other day, and then Evans went out there and protected him.
Got a suspension from it too.
Yeah, so.
Remind me never to tick off Mike Evans.
I'll tell you somebody everybody needs to watch, and it's a new breed of football. Quarterback is Allen at Buffalo. That guy is on a different planet than anybody. And I like Herbert from Chargers, and of course, but these big old strong guys, they can Tommy gun that thing. It can also move their feet. Wow. I mean, I guarantee you, Cook and Isaiah McKenzie, I got to be happy. They're going to be making a lot of playoff money.
Yeah, so Cook had a pretty nice day the other day. I was very happy for him. So,
well, thanks for everybody. Just put the brakes on, enjoy the ride. I mean, this is a casual Sunday afternoon ride, and don't get too fired up about going too fast, and just enjoy and look at the scenery. Well, that's a nice house over there. Well, we got, hey, enjoy the game Saturday instead of finding something wrong with us.
Don't think about the mountain cabin. You'll get there eventually. Just think about the drive up and check out all the pretty leaves on the way. Do what Derek Walker says. Hit the like on the video, guys. We really appreciate that. Share this with your friends if you would. It means a lot to us. Hit the subscribe button if you're not. We've added 300 subscribers since last Monday. That's phenomenal. So
most popular Georgia YouTube channel out there.
What do they do? Just put subscribe, and doesn't cost them anything, right?
Doesn't cost them anything. Just hit the subscribe button, and basically that lets you know when we go live. So we have people who, like I got a couple phone calls from people who obviously are not subscribed because they would know that I'm doing the show right now. So if you get
Is
a
that
chance,
Paul again? Is that Paul?
No. Paul knows better. It's actually somebody else on the beat I need to check out real quick. Okay. So anyway, If you get a chance, hit the subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it, and we will see everyone next Tuesday at noon. Thank you for watching.